There's a lot of potential you can discover with your support characters, and there's 3 methods you can use to achieve this. One of the most common things you will hear about support characters is that they're there to make your main damage dealer look good. And while for the most part this is an appropriate statement, support characters are far more complex than their usual damage dealer and come in various shapes and sizes. What this means is that the perception of support usually lies somewhere between healing and buffing your characters, but in reality, they are also very capable damage dealers themselves. And the key difference between support and a main damage dealer is that the latter can consistently dish out a lot of damage that's usually centered around their basic attacks. However, you shouldn't neglect your support character's damage, especially once you start raising their talents past level 6. What's also important is that while it is a usually good idea to build a team around your main damage dealer, sometimes taking notice of the viability between 2 support characters can be a good strategy. The best example would be someone like Fischl, who has one of the best support damage skills in the game by making her Raven do all the bidding for her. Combining her together with someone from the Geo element that has Archaic Petra artifact set can give a substantial boost to her burst and elemental skill, and the same could be done with the animal characters that have Viridess and Venereer set, depending on whether you want to make the enemies more susceptible to your attacks or boost the character you're using instead. And this is just one of the many ways you can make your support character stronger by using other teammates appropriately, so it's not always about healing or shields or even crowd control that supports are good at, and instead they can also provide substantial amount of damage even if the main damage dealer outperforms them. All in all, if your character isn't entirely focused on healing or providing defensive support, then they can most likely contribute a good chunk of damage for your team, and this also means that damage sometimes doesn't come directly from skills, but instead from using the right team compositions. At its core essence, Genshin Impact heavily focuses on resource management, and this isn't something that's unusual for gacha games. And one of the easiest investments you can make in the game is by choosing 2 main damage dealers who can be used in the Spiral Abyss, but the question remains what to do with the rest of the support characters. And the first thing to do would be to analyze what value does your support character bring. If they are mainly used just for their skill or burst, then you can first start by focusing on only leveling one of your talents to save up the resources for your other supports or your damage dealer instead. For example, Bennett is highly praised for his burst that gives a significant increase to your active character's attack rating, so it wouldn't make sense to level his basic attacks or even his elemental skill if all you're really using him for is to get that big boost in damage for other characters. You can and will eventually level all of his talents, but especially when you're just starting out, even if you have enough resin to get his talents raised, it's better to just focus on one thing that the character does well. One other expensive investment are the weapons. Gathering Ascension materials and Mara costs resin, and if your support character isn't going to be providing decent damage, but instead utility, then it's better to invest into weapons that provide energy recharge, elemental mastery, or any stat that scales with their skills instead. But if you want to see more helpful daily tips about your favorite support characters, make sure to follow us on Twitter, link in the description. Now, one good way to check if you feel your character is progressing nicely would be to use the incremental testing method. Since you aren't raising just one but multiple characters at the same time, sometimes it doesn't take much to get good results with their current performance and can help you focus on other characters without overextending your resources. One good example for using this method could be someone like Chi-Chi. Her healing scales off exclusively with her attack, and the first thing that would make sense would be to focus on raising as much attack for her as possible, since not only could she then deal more damage, but also heal the team as well. However, with incremental testing method, she's actually quite capable without too much investment that includes a level 6 elemental skill, a Favonius sword which is only level 50, and Maiden's Beloved 4-piece artifact set, except all of the artifacts are at level 0. And this minimum build allowed Chi-Chi to function quite well as a healer in the Spiral Abyss, and no more investments were made. And analyzing if she's an excellent healer is irrelevant, since your main focus is to maximize the value you can get from support without spending too many of your resources. She's not going to deal any significant damage, but then again, we're only focused on having a healer, not a damage dealer. And this was achieved by simply testing the waters with her and not overspending on leveling her artifacts or talents, with the sword being the biggest investment. And for the most part, a support character only needs to be leveled until you unlock their second passive skill to fully utilize them, and afterwards, once you have enough characters that have been equally invested in, you can push forward for the next wave of improvements. All in all, a support character doesn't need the same investment as your main damage dealer, and they can provide a lot of valuable help if you approach them from a modular mindset. Take the best thing they have about them, improve it first, and enjoy the benefits, and then improve the rest of their skills and stats. This way, talents, artifacts, and weapons can be managed without stressing too much on your resin, since it will always be a challenging resource to handle, and spreading yourself too thin by upgrading your support character fully instead of bit by bit can slow down your other character's progress. When it comes to the question, what support character is the best one for your team, you should always start by first looking over your own roster. And without even considering team building, it's always a good idea to have at least one support character from each element, since they can all help out in various challenging parts of the game, like the Spiral Abyss or endgame domains. This way, you will always have an answer to annoying things like the smoldering flames from the 10th floor of the Abyss, which can be cleansed with characters like Barbara, even if she's as low as level 1. But to summarize, a support character isn't necessarily someone who's there to just heal or buff your allies, and instead can be used either by themselves or together with another character to produce capable damage, even if it doesn't surpass your main damage dealer, which is not supposed to be a deal breaker, but instead a great way to boost your team's performance. And when it comes to managing your precious resin for your favorite characters, you can use the mindset of deconstructing what makes your character great and improve that part of them by using methods like incremental testing, or by simply just doing small upgrades and observing how much of a difference it has in your gameplay. Finally, collecting and raising characters is arguably the most fun part of Genshin Impact, so if you want to be prepared for any type of elemental problems, make sure to have at least one support character from each element. Let us know in the comments who's your favorite support character and why. Also, don't forget to subscribe and enable the bell notification, as well as make sure to gently press the like button. Thank you for watching us.